Be not afraid.
Hello and welcome back to the channel, or welcome if you're new here. My name is Sam Spooks and this is Dead Vibes Only. Tonight I will be starting a new series titled A Brief History of Ghosts. In this series we are going to be talking about the history of ghosts from all around the world, as well as some spirit stereotypes, and talk about them. So what is a ghost? According to the Merriam-Webster dictionary, a ghost is defined as a disembodied soul, especially the soul of a dead person believed to be an inhabitant of the unseen world or appear to the living in bodily likeness. So if that's the case, how did we get to the little guys in the white sheets? Before caskets and coffins, we had something called the death shrouds, which was essentially a sheet that you were wrapped in, and that's how you were buried, instead of casket or a coffin. However, if you were really poor, you were kind of just wrapped up in the bedsheet that you died in. So why did we start depicting ghosts in our modern media as see-through people, or even solid people rather than little guys in white sheets? Also, imagining like a big box wobbling at you seems a lot more scary, than like a person walking through a wall. And I want to know why exactly it is that like people were depicted in their death shrouds, but they're not, like, you don't see a coffin walking around, you know what I mean? So in the UK, in the winter of 1804, there is an alleged ghost terrorizing the town. Our story starts with a Mr. Thomas Millwood, who was a bricklayer, who was leaving his parents' and sister's house late one night, dressed in his bricklayer uniform, which back then was a white button-up, a white waistcoat, white trousers, and a white apron. He was mistaken for a ghost 3 times before the incident of this night. This ghost was said to have committed violent acts as well as possibly caused 2 deaths. So when Millwood was spotted by a Francis Smith who was patrolling for the ghost that was terrorizing the town, it was pretty much no questions asked. He was shot and killed pretty much on sight. Thomas Millwood was begged multiple times by his wife to wear an overcoat over his white uniform so that people didn't continue to mistake him for a ghost, but he refused. Smith was originally sentenced to death for this act of violence against Thomas Millwood, but was later sentenced to a year of hard labor instead. So who was the real ghost terrorizing the town, you might ask? So sit down for this one and get Scooby-Doo real quick. The real ghost was an elderly shoemaker who was going around terrorizing the town in order to scare his apprentice. Allegedly, his apprentice was telling ghost stories to the shoemaker's children and was frightening them. So to get back at him, the elderly shoemaker made himself into a ghost. And even though there was reported acts of violence and possible deaths caused by this ghost, in addition to the death of Thomas Millwood, there was no trial that I could find for this elderly shoemaker. It was around the time of this trial that people really began to rethink the appearance of ghosts. And virtually by this time anyway, death shrouds were being phased out for the more popular coffins or caskets. So when did we start talking about ghosts? When you look up when they start talking about ghosts, you will find a lot of rise of the occult in the Victorian times, although that isn't when it started. Ghosts have been talked about ever since there's been people. We have always been talking about ghosts. So where were ghosts first mentioned? Well, the earliest mention that I could find of ghosts was a Babylonian tablet from 1500 BCE. This tablet detailed instructions on how to perform an exorcism. The tablet details instructions on how to summon the god of the underworld to take the rogue spirit away. That's ingenious. Today it is incredibly easy to find documented paranormal sightings, whether that's online, in books. You can go on YouTube and watch all sorts of documented paranormal investigations, people telling paranormal story times. It's all over the place. It is so easy to access. And if you're feeling particularly up to the challenge, you could... That bag just moved on its own. Is there a ghost here? Hello. My name is Sam Spooks, and I'm recording a video for Dead Vibes Only. I hope you're enjoying. And if you're feeling up to the challenge, you can even participate in paranormal investigations yourself. But if that's not your cup of tea, you can always stick to just watching them online or on television. What are your questions about the history of ghosts? What are your questions about ghosts in general? Please leave them down in the comments below. As always, thank you so much for watching. Keep a light on if you need to, but remember, be not afraid. See you in the next one.